Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
You're watching Disruptive Investing. So it's not easy to be a successful investor.
The name of this channel, Disruptive Investing, is so named because we're focused on finding companies that are disrupting the way that things have been done before.
And that usually means by developing, or at the very least, implementing new disruptive technologies in their products or services.
But just developing or implementing these technologies is no guarantee of becoming a profitable, successful company.
Case in point, Volta Trucks. This is a Swedish company founded in 2017 that we've reported on for years on our sister channel, Now You Know, on that weekly show of ours, Tesla Time News.
We are a big believer in electric vehicles that are, as we speak, disrupting transportation as we know it.
And unlike Bill Gates, we believe that this applies to big trucking, like Class 8 semi-tractor trailer trucks as well.
This is probably one reason why Bill shorted Tesla stock.
So how's that working out for him so far?
Well, according to Walter Isaacson, Bill has lost $1.5 billion shorting Tesla stock as of last year.
Ouch. Sorry, Bill. Well, we all know that Tesla's already started producing and delivering their Class 8 all-electric Tesla semi-truck.
Yeah, Jay Leno just took it for a spin and he loved it.
And Tesla has delivered over 50 semis to PepsiCo, which Pepsi are using as we speak to deliver their goods. And I think Tesla took a very smart approach.
Yeah, Tesla first started by using the semi-trucks themselves to deliver parts between their Gigafactory in Sparks, Nevada, and their car factory in Fremont, California. They got to collect a lot of data to see what was working and what wasn't, and get feedback from their drivers all before releasing it to customers.
Then, by delivering a small batch of semis to trusted partners, they could continue to gather data and feedback from drivers, which they are now putting into the design of the next iteration of the semi-truck. And what we see here is that even a giant company like Tesla has to thread the needle.
They have to not only make the truck reliable and full of features that customers want, but they also have to be able to produce the trucks profitably.
So now back to Volta Trucks. Unfortunately, even though Volta Trucks was making all electric trucks, and even though they had a bunch of impressive milestones, they had received orders of over 10,000 trucks, they just filed for bankruptcy in Sweden.
I declare bankruptcy!
Now, the good news is that I don't think too many of us had invested in Volta because they are a privately held company. So unless you were part of one of their funding rounds with Amazon, Bflexion, or Luxor Capital, you haven't lost anything on this news.
So why are we talking about it?
Well, because for one, Volta planned on going public. So it's very likely that if the global economy didn't suck so much, they might have already gone public. And so there could have been many of us invested in Volta shares because, again, it sounds like a cool, disruptive company. I mean, the trucks look cool. They're Swedish. And like I mentioned, many of their milestones were impressive. I mean, Volta had the first purpose-built, fully electric truck specifically designed for urban deliveries. And why do you think Amazon invested so much in them? Volta had partnered with a bunch of companies to develop a charging infrastructure for their vehicles.
Yeah, and the Volta Zero had this cool design with the driver in the middle.
Like the Tesla semi-truck.
That gives a wider field of vision than traditional trucks, which improves the safety of the driver and other road users.
And Volta had chosen Magnus Steyr in Austria to produce the Volta Zero truck starting this year.
Magnus Steyr, that sounds familiar.
That does sound familiar, right? Because that is the same company that is now making the Fisker Ocean that we talked about before. So again, a pretty smart move, right? Instead of building out their own expensive factories, Volta subbed out the manufacture of their trucks to a proven automotive company, Magnus Steyr, which makes vehicles for BMW, Daimler, Ford, General Motors, Land Rover.
Everybody.
But is it a smart move? It seems smart because it eliminates the need for raising the capital to build a factory and all that time and energy and focus to build the factory and outfit it and design the production lines.
I mean, this is where Tesla got stuck before, right? I mean, remember the Model X production and the Model 3 production?
But what do you gain if you make it through that gauntlet? Well, you now have a team that knows how to build a production line and a vehicle. You now have learned all those lessons yourself. You now have a factory. You can repeat that process and get even more good at it like Tesla has. If we follow Volta's or Fisker's lead, you get a vehicle that you can sell at the end. But you have a middleman who is making your vehicles along with all their part suppliers, whom, by the way, they have the relationships with, not you. And you have a much more expensive vehicle at the end with lower margins. And if you want to do it again, make another vehicle, well, you haven't gotten any better at making your own cars. And in Volta's case, they didn't even get to the point where they started making the trucks. Even though they had orders for 10,000 trucks, they hadn't raised enough capital to get them to that point.
Like Elon has talked about so many times before, coming up with a prototype is difficult, but it is nothing compared to the production hell of figuring out how to produce a vehicle and then how to produce that vehicle at scale profitably. It's almost impossible.
There are so many steps. There are so many parts. There are so many things to go wrong. There are so many things that have to arrive just in time. And then even after you produce the vehicle, you have to be able to market it, distribute it, service it, charge it. It's no wonder that Volta went bankrupt.
Volta is desperately looking for a buyer to bail them out. And I mean, good luck with that.
And so as disruptive investors, we should learn lessons from Volta Motors. It takes more than a good-looking design. It takes more than some milestones achieved. You need to have a C-suite team that will not stop in its efforts to reduce costs and master the manufacturing pipeline.
And I think a lesson to be learned here is that when a company just wants to pawn that off to a third party to make their vehicles, then are they really an auto manufacturer, or should we think of them more as auto designers?
And why are we valuing auto design companies so highly if all they're really doing is designing and not making the vehicle? I think there's a reason why there hasn't been a successful auto company in the United States for 100 years until Tesla came along. And that's because it is nearly impossible to do.
I think as disruptive investors, we may want to stop looking for EV companies to invest in, because so far the only one that I can think of that is doing it profitably is Tesla.
Yeah. So disclaimer, we're not financial advisors. We're not telling you what stocks to invest in or not to invest in. But this is a company, Volta Motors, that would have probably looked very interesting to a lot of us, EV disruptive investors, because it was doing the right thing. It wasn't making ICE vehicles that it had to make up for. And it was just focused on this one thing, which we all kind of agree is going to be the future. But it's so hard to thread that needle. It is so hard to get that right. And I mean, in the beginning, I think in a way, it was smart to have someone else build it for them, because we've seen so many companies fail, like Arrival, Canoe, right? They're all trying to do so much at once, and you need just tremendous capital. If we look at Tesla, they kind of did this cool move. Rivian did it too, where they found a cheap factory that was already built, bought it for pennies on the dollar, got a lot of the equipment cheap too, and they could kind of start that way. Yet they got the benefits I talked about, which was they learned how to make their own vehicle. So maybe this is the key. Maybe we should be looking for companies that do this, which is they do want to make their own vehicle, but they look for a cheap way to do it.
But I want to push back on Rivian a little bit. When Tesla was doing this, I don't think that it was as cushy as Rivian. I think that, Rivian has shown that they are a very cushy place to work, that it's very relaxed, it's very slow. And Tesla has never been that way. And I think I give a lot of credit to Elon Musk, because he pushes. He doesn't like luxury. He doesn't need there to be a fun coffee bar or anything. He might install something that's going to be fun for employees a little bit, but he's not going to take the foot off of the accelerator at all.
No, I think you've hit on something really important. The founder of a company sets the tone for why you're doing it. And in RJ's case, it always did seem like he was doing it because it's fun to be a CEO. And it is fun to be a CEO, I guess, but it also should be excruciatingly hard. And I think he didn't like that part of it. I think he liked I'm the guy in charge part of it, and I can walk around and look cool. And for Elon, he's never cared about the fun part of it. He's cared about the getting things done part.
And that, to me, and I know that I've said this example many times, and you can actually watch me ask this question to RJ Scaringe over on Now You Know. I don't think I've talked about it on Disruptive Investing. I asked him point blank, I'm like, why are you doing this? And I was expecting him to say, like, we need to save the planet, or electric vehicles are super important, or anything like that. And he gave me the answer of, I really wanted to be an auto CEO.
There you go.
So if you're going to start an electric car company, you have to have something driving you. What is driving you?
Yeah, starting a business like this, it's so complex. There's so many different elements: the financing, the supply chain, the technology, the product itself. So for me, since I was really young, I've always wanted to do something that was going to have a lot of impact and do something within automotive. I'm a lifelong car enthusiast, and the opportunity to do something that was influencing the future of transportation really was core to me, and it drove the decisions to start the business and kept me so focused on building a company.
What?
I think a lot of people out there today, it wasn't a name of a job when I was a kid. Like, there were CEOs, but no one called them that. Now it's like, I want to be a CEO, and so everyone is one. And it sounds cool, Chief Executive Officer. But you should be doing it for the right reasons. And I think that's one huge thing as an investor. Look at the CEO, or the founder, see why they're actually doing it. Is it because it's cool, or is it because they really want to solve a problem?
And it was really that moment when I was standing next to RJ asking him that question.
You lost interest in the company.
I lost interest immediately. I remember driving home being so dejected and upset because here was this guy when I wasn't even pushing him. Like, I mean, watch the interview. It was relaxed. I was just asking him, I was giving him a whole bunch of softballs. That was a softball question I gave him. Why do you want to do this? Here you go. And I was expecting it's going, it's gone, And I don't know. It just really gave me the true colors. I mean, he had been on all night, talking to people who had ordered the truck and investors and stuff like that. So I think that I was just some YouTuber, and they're breaking down everything behind us because they wouldn't do the interview with me at any other point during the whole thing. I had to stay there for 6 hours. And maybe that's another reason why I was upset. But okay, he's talking to some YouTuber. He doesn't care about his answers. So he gave me the truth. And it was like, thank you. But at the same time, I don't think that you're the right guy. And I feel like a lot of these companies, we have to look at them and see how hard they're pushing. We have to see what the company culture is like. And that's hard to completely gain access to.
And I think that if the worldwide economy was doing really well right now, Volta probably still would be in business.
Yes.
They'd be able to raise some capital. And that's probably scary for us investors because it would look like everything was fine. We'd see, oh, great milestones, good looking truck. But if they're going to fail when it gets tough, you see that they're not resilient.
This is the advantage of rough waters, rough economic waters, so to speak. Right. I mean, you get to see which boats are truly shipshape and which ones aren't.
Yeah.
And as an investor, it's scary because you're going to lose some boats. But at the same time, you have to, it's a great learning experience.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us every week here on Disruptive Investing. Consider joining our Now You Know Patreon, where we have an investor club where we talk about all this kind of stuff every week and more on our Slack. So join us. We'll put the link down below. We'll see you next week on Disruptive Investing.